never ceases to amaze me how people all across the country are helping to contribute in their own little ways to the more efficient use of our most precious resource, water. The one thing that none of us can do without, whether it's for washing, drinking, or bringing life to your garden. I've dedicated my career to helping people use it more wisely. And tonight, I'm going to share with you some truly inspiring stories from one of the most drought-affected cities in Australia. Tonight on the Odyssey, our backyard revolution begins. May I remove the edge?
Yes, you may.
A unique water solution for a very special family.
Thank you so much. This is so good. Thank you. Really.
Pleasure. And how to grow fruit, veggies and barramundi on your balcony.
In the middle of the city, and you can grow veggies and fish. Now that's astonishing.
My name is Rose Carello. I'm from Africa. I enjoy this garden very much.
This is the Logan Community Food Garden on the outskirts of Brisbane. A little piece of Africa in the heart of the suburbs.
My name is Jenny.
I'm Charles Sula. I'm a gardener in the community garden here.
My name is Cecilia Osa. I'm Sudanese.
We are happy for the garden.
Keeps me alive and it's fun.
The gardens are here to help refugees from various war-torn countries in Africa start a new life in Australia. And even though they've only been in this spot for 10 months, they're already one of the most productive community gardens in the country. Swinging off the highway, you arrive here and it's a very harsh, dry space. The ground is very hard. But you come round the corner and there's this garden that is green. There's plants that look so healthy. You don't need to approach them to say, hey, something is being done correctly here. This place is alive. It's jumping out of the ground. This incredible group of green thumbs use planting techniques and crops that are straight out of the harsh conditions of Africa, producing abundant crops with only poor soil and next to no resources. Hi, Helen.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for such
You
a
look
beautiful
nice.
outfit. Come on. This is my wardrobe. That is a wardrobe. Helen Modong, the garden's manager, was the first African migrant in the Logan area. She arrived here 13 years ago after fleeing the civil war in Sudan and spending 3 years in a Ugandan refugee camp. To her, these gardens provide far more than just fresh fruit and veg for her family.
I just feel good when I'm in the garden.
What is it? Hands in the
The
dirt?
love for the garden, yeah, the dirt and the smell of the earth and the green color. That's my favorite color. If I don't come to the garden, I feel like something is missing. Yeah.
Helen and many of the other gardeners here learnt their skills on small farms and even on the fringes of refugee camps. Their techniques are designed to get maximum productivity from even the smallest and driest patches of dirt. They've learnt gardening as a way to survive. We in the West label their techniques companion planting, mixing specific crops to improve soil, control pests, minimise water use and, above all, increase yield. Surrounding me here is a vegetable supermarket like no other. This is companion planting on another level, and it's exciting. I mean, this is maize, not sweet corn, surrounding that is just a sea of peanuts. Now, these peanuts are doing different things. They're fixing nitrogen into the soil. Next to that, there's okra. There's amaranth as an insect repellent. As you can see, the amaranth leaves have been hit by something. But these ones, they're clean. Every leaf is perfect. The peanut leaves are perfect. This place is alive with a whole different vocabulary of edible plants. A lot of the plants grown here are only found in Africa, meaning that even thousands of miles away, these gardeners can still get a taste of home. Rosemary, tell me, what's this?
It's a cassava plant. It has some roots. We eat the roots, but some people eat the leaves as well.
Cassava are one of nature's superfoods, easy to grow and extremely high in carbohydrates and protein. It's a bit like a sweet potato.
Yeah.
Like in shape.
Yeah.
But it's very white.
Yeah.
And how do you cook it?
You just boil it if you want to.
Like a potato?
Yeah, yeah. The skin is a bit sour, so you need to peel them.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you can break them here. Just like that. And that's how you peel them.
Despite being one of the world's most important staples, cassava can be toxic and needs to be carefully prepared and only eaten raw in tiny amounts.
You might have to try it when it's cooked to find the different taste.
While I've been here, I've noticed that the community only has 2 leaky old hoses with no nozzle guns to cover the entire garden. So to help them preserve our liquid gold, they're going to need some new supplies. Yeah, take that off, but it's got to get in through there. 4 new industrial quality hoses with brass joiners and nozzles. And then to finish, can you turn it off? The best thing about providing these hoses for the gardens here is that everyone will be able to water their plots more efficiently with handheld controls. So the taps aren't just running willy-nilly the whole time while they're doing other things. As a result, the water goes where it needs to be, right to the source.
And watering around and around and around.
Walking around in this garden and being surrounded by these beautiful people that have come from such incredible circumstances, 3 years, 5 years, in refugee camps where they were growing these gardens out of necessity. Now they're growing them out of love and out of a desire to eat the foods that nurture them. With next to no resources, the beautiful people here have created an African oasis in the heart of the suburbs. Proving that when it comes to gardening, it's not just about nurturing the soil, it's about nurturing the soul as well. Thank you for such a great day. Mwah. Thank you. Happy gardening. See you. They say that necessity is the mother of all invention. Well, I'm about to meet a man who, faced with losing his garden in the middle of a drought, has found a way to grow all his fruit, veggies and fish in a simple system that can be set up anywhere, even on your balcony or in your backyard. How good is that?
Hey, Costa. How are you? Good to see you, pal.
Yeah, good to meet you. Murray Hallam is one of Australia's leading experts on a system called aquaponics.
As you can see, we grow tomatoes, eggplant, you name it, we can grow it.
An incredible new technology that just might revolutionise the way we grow our food. It's just like walking into a little supermarket of
veggies
fresh
and stuff.
veggies.
Yeah.
Murray claims that he can grow a lettuce in just 21 days and a plate-sized fish in 6 to 9 months.
What about the pawpaw? Who would have ever thought you could grow pawpaw in gravel?
In gravel.
Grown on fish poo, isn't that terrific? And we've already harvested nearly 40 kilos of fruit off both pawpaw trees already.
40 kilos?
Unbelievable, yeah.
Amazingly, this system has no soil. The plants are grown in gravel beds and fed on a nutritious diet of fresh fish poo. Water is pumped from the tanks to the plants and back every 12 minutes. The fish poo is broken down by bacteria growing on the gravel and, amazingly, every gardener's best friend.
Look at the worms. Garden worms, have a look at that.
This leaves piles of nutrients for the plants and a clean water supply for the fish. Look at this guy.
Of course, the garden worms are doing what garden worms do in any garden. They are actually processing the fish waste and releasing the minerals so that it's available to the plants.
Fantastic.
So what a wonderful little ecosystem. You're actually mimicking nature to a great degree.
Virtually any type of freshwater fish or crustacean can be grown in an aquaponics system. And because the unit is completely self-contained, you have no option but to be clean and green.
Costa, we can't use insecticides of any description because if we do, we'd kill the fish.
Yeah.
So the fish are a bit like the old canary down the coal mine, you know.
Exactly.
Whilst they're fairly tough in their own way, but if you put some kind of poison in the water or even some kind of artificial fertiliser, the fish will be dead in half an hour. So you're forced to be organic whether you like it or not.
For a dry country like Australia, aquaponics could be a revolution, allowing people to grow fresh fruit, veggies and fish where it was previously thought impossible.
In this system, the only water you lose is what the plants actually transpire. So the rest is not lost. So it just keeps circulating. And the good part about it is that it only uses 10% of the water that you would use to grow the same amount of veggies in a traditional garden. So for in a dry, thirsty land like Australia, and particularly where I live here, that was just an amazing thing to me, that I could grow my veggies with only 1/10 of the water.
If you'd like to find out more about aquaponics, visit our website, sbs.com.au/Costa. Here in the suburbs between Brisbane and the Gold Coast, it's not just Murray who's concerned about water. Recent droughts have made everyone aware of just how important it is to use water wisely and to use less of it. I'm about to meet a truly inspiring woman who, despite being affected by a debilitating disease, is determined to do her bit to help save the planet. Hey, Catherine.
Hi, Costa. How are you?
Good to meet. Kath Hopkins and her husband Joe recently wrote to me asking for help. And I've come here today to face one of the most unusual water problems I've ever had to tackle.
Both my daughter and I have got a very rare hereditary kidney condition, basically, called bronchiolitis syndrome. The doctor that diagnosed it claims he hadn't actually come across, or may have come across, one other person in Australia with it in the whole 25 years of being a renal specialist in Sydney.
Kath's condition means that she spends 6 hours every 2 days attached to her hemodialysis machine, a device that keeps her alive, but sees up to 4,000 litres of clean, filtered water every week literally poured down the drain.
We've seen such terrible droughts here in Brisbane. Last year we were on a level 5 water restrictions. To be able to just watch that amount of water go down the drain is just criminal. So here we have the dialysis setup.
Kath and Joe want me to help them find a way to capture this water so it can be reused.
That's good water.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of water we want to try and capture.
And my mission is to do it in a way that utilises an existing rainwater tank and won't require more than one pump.
The biggest challenge is the fact that the dialysis machine inside this room has an outlet height at only 600 millimetres. In an ideal world, my initial plan was to excavate the side passage so that the height of the tanks would come down 900 millimetres, and that way we could utilise their full capacity and it would fall under gravity. But the effort involved to rip out this whole side passage with stairways and skip bins and removing existing tanks and existing plumbing, it was just adding up, and my brain was ticking, ticking, ticking. How can we resolve this in a better way?
To make things worse, any setup that might leave water in the dialysis outlet could contaminate the entire machine.
I like a good challenge. That's good. This is a good one.
With a bit of careful planning, though, we come up with the answer. My solution is to put in a holding tank which captures the water under gravity. We'll then connect a special two-stage pump that can either take the water anywhere to the garden or pool, or directly to two joined mother tanks. The first stage of putting in tanks is to lay in the paving. And the most important thing to do here is to make a good base.
The idea of this layer of crusher dust is that it's a fine material, so you can screed it off, and when you lay your paving on it, the paving sits flush. If you just use the dirt, you can't get that flat. So you go to walk on it, or you put the tank on it, and it's going to be uneven, and if the weight pushes up, it'll puncture the tank. So when you pave, using a nice bedding layer allows the pavers to bed in, and then they stay nice and flat. It's hard to get good labour these days.
Okay, push. Aha. Work.
Kath and Joe now have two new tanks and over 7,500 litres of water capacity. Dialysis water feeds into the smaller green tank and can be transferred to the bigger holding tanks or used directly on the garden.
Just the amount of water that we're going to be able to capture now is just, thank you so much. This is so good, thank you. Really.
Pleasure.
And as a tip for your place, the system only uses gravity and one pump to operate.
All right, I'll see you later.
Thanks very much, Costa.
Now, during the hard hours Kath spends dialysing, she at least has one less thing to worry about.
Looks like we've lost our dog.
After the break, our backyard revolution begins. Last week, we met the Tembaleskis, a family of 7, including 4 boys under 12, from the heart of the Sydney suburbs. The Tembaleskis have been chosen as the winners of our backyard revolution. Over the coming weeks, the plan is to turn this space into an abundant and sustainable haven, with a new layout, water tanks, a chicken coop, composting system, and a whole array of edible plants.
The hardest part for most of us to come into a situation like this is to think about where to begin. It just seems difficult, and also you tend to get so used to things. Well, this is the path. I can't change that, and well, this was always grass, even though we've worn it out, but we can't change that, but that's not what it's about. What today's about is combining all the wishes, all the realities of the aspect, the soil, the slope, put them all together, shake them up, and come up with a great cocktail.
A cocktail that will drastically change the way the Tembaleskis live their lives. To measure this, I've left 11-year-old Christopher and Dad Kane a couple of jobs, measuring their garbage and water usage to determine how much they waste and ultimately how much they'll save.
As you can see, yesterday our mum did 7 washings, which is a lot. So yeah, lots of water goes to the washings and all that. 1983. He did say we might put a water tank in. It will be good, and I just use all the rainwater, which is way better.
Today is where we wipe the slate clean, demolishing and clearing out to get ready for building.
Oh, here's the boys. OK, let's have a look at what's going to happen today. All this edge is going to go. I'm going to prune the trees and we're going to rip up this concrete. First, we've got to go and get all the tools.
Yeah.
I'll beat you.
The only tools you really need for basic demolition work is a sledgehammer, crowbar, safety gear, and if you've got them, a wheelbarrow and shovel. And of course, the muscles of a mob like the Tembaleskis won't hurt either.
First part of our job is to go along and get rid of this old stone edge. Was that your work, Kane?
Yes.
It's a nice structure. I like the structure, but unfortunately, it doesn't quite fit in with what we're trying to do. So with all due respect and with your permission, may I remove the edge?
Yes, you may.
It's funny how one line in a garden can define the space. And the tricky part about this edge was that it made us see this fence more because it ran in line with the fence. By getting rid of it, suddenly the shape of the yard can change, because if we move it this way, suddenly you're not looking along this fence thinking, oh, that's the extent of our yard. So, small job to get rid of it, but it's going to be a big change.
Costa?
Yeah?
What do you reckon? It's your hut, it?
Oh,
It looks good.
now I'm safe. When it comes to breaking up concrete slabs, there's a classic saying, give me a fulcrum and I can move the world. Well, that's all you have to do. Lever it up like that, give this a slight tap, and it'll break.
Breaking up most backyard concrete paving is easy enough, but it isn't long before Kane and I run into every landscape gardener's worst nightmare. Concrete slab thick enough to hold up a tank. With the slab full of steel reinforcing, the only option is to chip away from the edges. It may take a while, but you will get there.
Kane's just finishing off the little path up the side, so that's given me a chance to get away for a second and think about the set out. Now, before I can set out the main features of our garden, I have to trim this mulberry tree a little. It's a beautiful feature already here, so I don't want to hack it and then regret it later. All I want to do is lift it off the ground a little so that I can see through and see how the rest of our design's going to work. And then I want to take some off the top because it's useless having a tree that's so big that you can't reach the fruit.
The key to successful pruning is to just take your time. Always cut a few branches and then step back to check on the overall shape.
Look at that, Jan. Yeah, good trim.
With this beautiful arching branch here, I don't want to hack it off there at this stage. So the point to do it would be right at this branch, which is going to go up. And when we cut this extra bit off, it'll actually lift up and be above our ground, so I'm not going to walk into it. Less weight, up it goes.
Sometimes, even the little things can make a big difference. All we've done is cleared some slabs, pruned some trees and tidied up. And already the feeling of peace in the Tembaleschi garden is beginning to grow.
Think about it.
Next week on the Odyssey, I go deep undercover in search of a childhood passion. Big red cherries. Unlocking the secrets of healthy soil.
Something capable of breathing life into soil across the country.
And an amazing new garden bed, fit for a revolution.
Hey, Costa, the water's coming.
Oh, fantastic. That means that our design's working.